in childbirth. And how did she die? Because the ambulance that was supposed to take her from one medical facility to the other was not available because the driver at the time was at the beach. I think it was Easter. So he was at Labadi Beach. And so they had to beg him and cajole him until he finally came to drive the vehicle. By the time he got there, of course, she had passed away. And this is just one example of the fact that a lot of the factors driving these things can, in fact, be prevented. And if we do that, we will be able to achieve a lower maternal mortality rate. There's also a recent incident where all imminently preventable things. So the bottom line is that if we are serious enough and committed enough, these are things we should be able to reduce to acceptable levels, if not zero. Because if you look in the 40-year National Development Plan, we brushed everything aside and said that as a moral obligation, it should be zero. Because this is not just about women. To the degree that each and every one of us was born of a woman, then a woman's welfare and health is everybody else's business. And so it had to be a zero thing for us. And so here we are today with these very grim statistics that again reflect the socioeconomic and then spatial inequalities that continue to plague the country in terms of the southern half having better access to certain services than the northern half. So this is something that we are going to take up seriously, not just in the next SDGs report, but also in the preparation of the President's Coordinated Program, where we are going to prioritize this. Hopefully, we should be able to come up with negligence also. The last case we discussed 10 years ago was the issue of a pregnant woman who was lying on the floor in one of the leading hospitals in Accra, actually, in labor. And the nurses kept saying, well, we can't see you because we are praying. And after they finished praying, I don't want to tell you what they told her. Fortunately, she didn't die, but she lost a baby. The point here is that a lot of the factors responsible for these high health statistics can be prevented, and we have to work on that. So that's goal number 3. Now I'll go on to goal number 5, which is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And we have, of course, she represents the symbol, or she symbolizes the progress that we've made so far. We've also had the passage of the Affirmative Action Bill into law in 2024 to deepen legal frameworks that promote gender equality, and other improvements in appointments for women in decision-making positions for chief directors, Supreme Court, making decisions regarding their own health, age of marriage for women. These all have critical indicators that reflect progress since we last presented the report. So I won't go into further details. I'll wait. You can always get the report itself. And then we have goal 8, which is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work. It's a bit of a mouthful, but in the final analysis, when we talk about economic growth and economic transformation, goal 8 of the said at the last, when the commission was inaugurated, we are introducing what we call a 3D approach to measuring economic performance in Ghana. That means we are no growth in employment and growth in wages or earnings. And I'm happy to report that when the commission had its inaugural meeting, the governor of the Bank of Ghana assured us that they've already started moving in that direction by collaborating with Ghana Statistical Service. So a time will soon come where monetary policy in particular, macroeconomic policy, will be driven by employment targets. If we are not creating employment, then we can safely assume that all other policies have failed. In this report, we present the unemployment rate, which is the global standard. But for our own purposes in Ghana, we are also going to be producing what is known as the absorption rate or the employment rate. This gives us a better sense of how the economy is operating. So every quarter, we should be able to report how much of the labor force has the economy been able to absorb. So if 20,000 people are entering the labor force and the economy was able to create only 15,000, it means we are in a deficit, and therefore the government needs to be able to come up with the necessary policies to get us out of that. And then we have goal 14, which is conserve and suitably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for Sustainable Development. In 2025, Ghana's parliament has ratified the World Trade Organization's agreement on fisheries subsidies. My sister Emilia is here. She's nodding her head. Subsidies to curb illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, that's IUU, and promoting sustainable fisheries management. This has always been a priority for us, and I'm happy to see, or for us to report, that Parliament has taken a stand on that. An estimated 250,000 tons of plastic waste is dumped into the Atlantic Ocean annually. We need to do better than that. And then we have modest improvement on the World Ocean Health Index, OHI score, from 63.25 to 65 out of 100. So a bit of a progress there, but there's still a lot that can be done, especially under the issue of sanitation. Currently, our approach to sanitation is how to build more facilities to process waste. But the better, not the better, but massive public education. Currently, if you go to any restaurant and you order takeaway, you are automatically given plastic forks and spoons and tissue. And I always have to beg them, please keep them. We don't need them. We're taking the food home. We have forks and so forth. Even kenke, I noticed that kenke is now being wrapped in plastic. So it looks like while the world is going this way, we are going completely in the opposite direction. So I can assure you that we have all this on our radar. We are going to launch an ambitious public education program because there are 3 dimensions to the sanitation problem that sometimes we forget. We have the structural part of the sanitation, and I've always said that as long as we build open gutters, there will be choked gutters. So the proper thing to do is to think long-term and begin to cover the gutters. It's simple. Every country you go to, if you go to South Africa, you see the sidewalks at an angle like this. They also used to have open gutters, and they cover them. So that's the structural part. As long as we build open gutters, we will have choked gutters. And the whole exercise of desilting, which seems to be a peculiarly Ghanaian English, I haven't heard that word, desilt, will be an exercise in futility. And then the second dimension is behavioral, which is what I've talked about. We need to begin to educate kids so that they grow up with it. Of course, some of us are already too old to pick up these new tricks. But when I eat toffee in my car, for instance, I keep it in the car until I get home, and then I put it in the garbage. We need that behavioral change. And of course, we need institutional strengthening also. So the 3 dimensions: structural, behavioral, institutional. Most of you in this room may recall the days of Tankansri, when they say Tankansri Bowl, and then we all run to go and cover it. Not even take the garbage away, just to cover it. Because an open garbage itself would attract a fine from the Tankansri people. These days, nobody does anything. They're just there and so forth. And so we need to pay a great deal of attention to that also. And then let me add the 17th goal, which has to do with strengthening the means of implementation and revitalizing global partnership for sustainable development for Ghana. Now here, there is some improvement, but there's still room for even more improvement. We have total revenue as a proportion of GDP, which is part of the IMF program, by the way. It's around 16%, and it's been there for the past few years. And even that, as impressive as it may sound, is not the best. South Africa does 25% tax GDP ratio, whereas we are stuck around 16%. And that is part of the sources of the fiscal stresses that we keep having in Ghana. And there's a reason for that. Part of the reason is the sheer dominance of informality in our economy. 80% of it is informal. And then recently I came across some very disturbing statistics that 20% of our labor force have no education, close to 75% of our labor force, and therefore low tax base. And this is where our work as NDPC comes in, because we look at these structural impediments to fiscal policy, monetary policy, and propose medium term. So for us to be able to deal with these things, yes, we can raise taxes, but the most important thing is to grow the economy and transform the economy to more than one. Reason why South Africa has 25% GDP, tax GDP ratio, is that it's also one of the most formalized economies on the continent. They are doing something like 75% formal, while we are doing 20% formal. So this is something to bear in mind. Fortunately, we also have government expenditures as a share of taxes, the shares the taxes that went into government spending. That dipped, as anyone can imagine, in 2020 to 46% from 63, but it has since increased to 71%. So that's impressive. Hopefully we'll move to higher figures in the coming years. Now, what are we going to do in the next 5 years? As I said, the Sustainable Development Goals now have only 5 more years. It ends in 2030. There are 6 major interventions that we are looking to promote. One is the government's big push infrastructure program for roads, railways, water systems, agriculture, energy, healthcare, and education. And here I have to preempt myself and promise you that sooner rather than later, the Commission will be of the 40-year National Development Plan that never really saw the light of day. But trust me, when we do launch it, it will blow your mind. It covers everything. It has 9 different volumes that cover every aspect of infrastructure in Ghana, including even cemeteries. I know some of you don't consider cemeteries as part of infrastructure because when you hear infrastructure, you think of roads and so forth and so on. But how we plan our cemeteries is part of the civic infrastructure that we need to worry about. We have a paradox in Ghana where we spend so much money on the funeral and so little on our cemeteries, to the point of Awudome, where it's in road in the cemetery. So planning, fiscal planning, spatial planning is a very part. So as we go on, you hear us at NDPC, we no longer just use the term infrastructure. Now we say infrastructure and what? Spatial development. It's a big complement to each other. Because if you don't do that and communities or human settlements keep spreading, it means it costs more to take water to them. It costs more to send water. There are communities at La Paz that may never have inborn water ever, because the places that were laid out, and we all know what tanker waters can do. They contain also, years ago, many, many years ago, out of curiosity, I climbed the tanker to look inside what was there. And there was a frog in there just looking at me. So just imagine. There was a frog. There was a frog. So we need to take infrastructure and spatial planning seriously. Again, as part of the 40-year National Development Plan, we actually developed the first ever spatial development framework since Kwame Nkrumah's time. It cost us $2 million, paid for by the World Bank, and it's sitting there rotting. We will revive it again, and hopefully will contribute to the President's big push agenda. Digital transformation with improved access and affordability. My brother Sam is not here. I know he's under a lot of pressure on social media to reduce based solutions, leverage on integrated national financing framework to enhance domestic revenue mobilization through digital, own focus on led local economic development. We are going to prioritize that also because the national economy ultimately is the aggregation of all local economies. We have 261 in Ghana now. And so if you want to transform your national economy, you necessarily have to start with the District Assembly of Trade through the 24-hour economy with particular emphasis on maternal health. As I said earlier, maternal health is an overarching issue. We all owe our being, our presence, and our being here to our mothers. So if we solve that, we probably have solved over 50% of the challenges that we face.
Another round of applause for that very comprehensive summary of what is contained in the report. How many of you will be checking your water tankers when you get home? He just messed my mind up. I think I'd have to check my water tanker. Thank you very much once again. Your Excellency would now take a few statements from partners who have joined us this morning, and I'd like to first off call on His Excellency Edmond Mukala Nguemo, Acting United Nations Resident Coordinator, to come to the podium. Yes.
Excellency, President John Dramani Mahama, Your Excellency, Vice President of Parliaments present, development partners, Excellency, members of the Diplomatic Corps, civil society, private sectors, representatives, friends of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor to join you in this launching of Ghana's third voluntary national review report, highlighting our shared commitment to achieving sustainable development goals. And I really have to agree with my elder brother for such a comprehensive and also very encouraging report, which is really giving, we call it really good tidings and presenting really good things that is still yet to come. So really on behalf of the United Nations country team in Ghana, I commend the government of Ghana for its unwavering leadership and commitment to the SDGs. This third VNR is just a report. It's not just a report, sorry. It is in an increasingly complex global context. It involves a comprehensive assessment of the nation's progress objectives. So we have been part of the Vienna process and are pleased to recognize the depths of inclusivity, a demonstration of the strength of Ghana's democratic processes and planning institution, its vibrant civic engagement, and its whole of society approach. With 105 indicators out of the 251 indicators tracked, an increase from previous reviews, and a participatory and country-led process, this report provides a credible, big round of applause. So, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the Vienna process itself represents progress, showcasing Ghana's dedication to transparency and accountability in its development journey. By engaging in this review, Ghana aligned itself with international standards for the monitoring SDG implementation. The review process likely identifies areas where significant strides have been made, potentially in the sector like education has been really indicated, health, even though we know that we have to do better, and I like that, or poverty reduction, reflecting targeted national policies and interventions. So despite advancement, the Vienna process invariably highlights persistent challenges. This may include climate change adaptations and ensuring that no one is really left behind. The review serves as a critical tool for identifying these roadblocks, enabling more focused and effective policymaking for the future. We are pleased to note that the areas outlined in the VNR as the country's strategic focus, effective institution, decent work, quality education, sanitation, energy efficiency, aligned with the 6 global SDG transition and the Africa Union Agenda of 2063, moonshot. These priorities set out a clear, integrated pathway for targeted, catalytic investment that can drive transformation where it is most needed. And Ghana's launch recently, and we all really watch it with great admiration and enthusiasm, the 24-hour economy initiative is particularly timely. Yes, I think that one is even much louder. I don't think that you understood the vision. Yes. Yeah, you can even see even within the UN we are excited. I think all my colleagues will agree with me that being in Ghana this time is really a privilege because we will be experiencing an opportunity where our investment and our collaborations will also bear fruit that we can see in the present generation, but also in the generation to come. So really, we can really applaud and really commend the government for this initiative. So the 24-hour economy is particularly timely. This homegrown solution reinforces inclusive, all consistent with the Vienna findings and recommendations. Your Excellency, the United Nations is proud to have supported all 3 Vienna processes from 2019, 2022, and now 2025 through technical assistance, institutional coordination, and policy advisory. Through our UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2023-2025, we are already supporting critical areas of Ghana's development, from expanding digital inclusion and social protection to localizing the SDGs and mobilizing innovative finance through the integrated national financing framework. We particularly commend Ghana's leadership in the Global SDG Transformative Initiative, being one of the first 15 countries to commit the Power of Data Impact Initiative, and for advancing data partnership that will enhance future VNRs through richer and more diverse evidence, and that also needs an applause. Yes. We're talking about 15 countries, and you can count out of 192. That's huge. Moving forward, it is vital to carry the momentum generated by the VNR as I close. How are we leveraging the insight from this and previous VNR to track and sustain the progress that we are witnessing? How can AI, digital tools, local knowledges help us to move beyond report toward real-time course correction? And that also is responding to the 24-hour economy. So the VNR should not be just viewed as a one-time exercise, but as the backbone of a continuous result-driven national SDG delivery system. In closing, so let me to reiterate the United Nations enduring solidarity with the government and the people of Ghana. Ghana's commitment, as evidenced by the VNR, underscore the importance of continuous monitoring and adaptation to meet the transformative goals set forth in the 2030 agenda. We stand ready to deepen our partnership, support institutional strengthening, and help catalyze the resources and innovation needed to deliver the SDG for all. Let us therefore seize this moment to build a Ghana where every young person finds opportunity, where no community is left behind, and where progress is sustained and inclusive. I thank you.
Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for His Excellency Edmond Mukala Ngoimo, who is the acting United Nations Resident Coordinator, for those rousing commendations and call to further action. We thank you. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. On the NACAP 2, a CSO leader matchup. So I think that we are in good company with the remarks from the ambassador. And also, on that note, I'd like to invite another CSO leader, Ms. Mary Ada, co-chair of CSO's platform on SDGs, to give us her brief remarks. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. One of my sisters said, where we come from, we don't mention people's names in full like that. But this morning, I'm mentioning the name. Her Excellency, the Vice President, Ministers of State here present, civil society, the media, permit me to say at this juncture, all protocols duly observed. On behalf of the Ghana Civil Society Platform on the SDGs, and on my own behalf, permit me to say a very hearty congratulations to the government and people of Ghana for such a wonderful product produced. I believe we deserve a rousing round of applause for the VNR report 2025. I say so because I have seen it. I've been involved in the ICC, and it's no mean statement by the chairman of the commission to say that the capacity within the NDPC is top-notch, and we commend you for that. We in civil society have also had opportunity to learn, and so we are very grateful to that. I wish to express our sincere congratulations to government for the successful development and for today's launch, which again is another first. signaling government's commitment to ensuring that each and every one of the 17 goals are going to be implemented. We know, and we have done several assessments that have signaled that we have challenges. However, today's launch in country signals a beginning where we see that no one and none of the goals would be left behind. The VNR is more than a report, as has been signaled before. It is a mirror of our nation's collective efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, our shared blueprint as a people, as we navigate the challenges and tunnels through which we build sustainable planets, through which we promote peace, and through which Ghana. And indeed, as Ghana prepares to present this report to the United Nations later this week, and that is from the 30th to the 23rd of July, we believe that our successes and the various innovations we have spelt and chalked, and the lessons we have captured from the reflections through the development of this report will indeed be a glowing example for all at the UN next week. Indeed, Ghana continues to be a torchbearer whenever we present our reports, and in the two reports we saw that happen in 2019 and the last and this one. So we have no doubt whatsoever that we are going again to shine and to come back with great commendations from across the globe. The Sustainable Development Goals are not distant ideals. They are deeply connected to our daily lives. Whether it is access to quality education, health services, decent work, clean water, or justice, these goals shape the aspirations of every Ghanaian, and for civil society, they are the rallying call for our action. The Ghana Civil Society platform from the community and to the policy implementation and policy formulation levels, through monitoring research and policy advocacy, the platform contributes to tracking progress, amplifying voices, and building of two alternate reports. Note, we do not call them shadow reports. We say they are alternate reports that showcase the specific cases of good stories that are being told across the country by citizens who have experienced, lived, and continue to be impacted by the implementation of the gaps. But these are alternate reports that also sell the stories of civil society. And I'm excited to say that for the three reports continuously, civil society case studies have been embedded in our reports. And Mr. President, with government in the presentation of the VNR at the high-level political forum, where one of our colleagues who is a person who is differently abled presented with the minister then. I believe these are good examples with civil society as an equal partner as what is espoused in the OGP as we do. We commend government, permit me to say at this point, for its openness in allowing us to be engaged in the various where they allow civil society to be part of the data generation, putting together the report, taking input at the end of the report. So we commend you for that. And it is our prayer that this may live long, that we'll continue to see these actions continually in the processes. To conclude, I say that we continue to pray. At the last VNR, that was one of the critical issues that was mentioned, that if we need to implement and fulfill all the goals, then it means we need sustainable financing to ensure that we are doing so. And then particularly also looking at the SDG 16 and reflecting on SDGs 16.4, 0.5, and 0.6 to ensure that we drive accountability through all the goals And for that matter, if we are able to seal the gaps of corruption, we should be able to generate a lot of budget to ensure that we are financing the SDGs without a challenge. May I say at this point that the processes have really inspired some of us, and I believe it will inspire all Ghanaians across the lengths and breadths of this country, that as we proceed, we would even be more committed in documenting and telling our success stories. I wish to, on behalf of the civil society platform on the SDGs, commend the NDPC and commend you, Mr. President, for allowing this process to flow so smoothly. And I am very sure that next week, even as we proceed to New York, we will come back with stories, glowing stories to tell. Thank you very much.
Great stories all around. And the president has another event immediately after this, so we'll try to quickly go through the rest of the program. And next on the agenda is a statement and solidarity message from Nana Osei-Bonsu, Chief Executive Officer, Private Enterprise Foundation. Please, let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here to realize that the president had made the VNR. The SDGs started from the MDGs in 2000 at the UN when the Millennium Development Goals were established with the opportunity to be adopted by the international organizations and the world at large. They pinpointed areas of importance to mankind, human beings, and the world. Resiliency in water generation is money making. How do we make money? We don't go to set up businesses to create jobs, no. We go to make money and set up businesses to make money. And whilst we Director General, Mr. Nimoy Thompson, it's been a long road between you and I for these MDGs and SDGs of mankind. Land management, sustainable environment, galamsey. That is plaguing our environment. But today, we're creating this partnership to fight galamsey. Just before the president came in, it was announced that I think we had made about $5 billion from gold exports in organized mining industry. For the private sector, adequate resources and capital mobilization is critical to enable us to do business. How do we do that when things are filtering around and dropping through the gaps? So what we say, Mr. President, is to assist us for capital mobilization. In Ghana, our pension schemes are the avenues to create capital. But our pension age is low compared to the world. Can we, Mr. President, advise and be part of the discussion to move the pension age from what it is now at the optional age of 62 and mandatory by 70 years? First, who said, I think Nimoy said JM1. At that time, we built and we created a 3-tier pension scheme from the single SNP pensions. And that 3-tier pension scheme is now mobilizing billions. And if we were to move the pension age forward, we will create a lot of capital that the private sector can utilize to create opportunities to create wealth and to create jobs. The director general, that had to be taken care of. And nobody can take care of these things but the private sector. And he mentioned that 80% of workers are the informal sector. The government sector is only 6.5. And the other sector, also private sector, 4 more. So what we need, Mr. President, once we publishing, and I'm very grateful that we were invited because Ghana is bold enough to put their plate in the MDGs to the SDGs and be able to create the opportunities for all. And somebody mentioned, don't leave anybody sidelined, and 50% are working today. On the new government, another 50% will be sidelined and 50% working. It's Ghana for all and all for Ghana. So, Mr. President, we congratulate you in your bold approach to publish this VNR and to be able to stick your neck out that 17 goals. And the key point that I'm going to close with is the private sector, the civil society, and the government to move in tandem to achieve the SDG goals. I thank you very much.
Very well. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we'll be unable to take our last solidarity message as the president needs to come speak to us and then move on to his next event. And so, Mr. Edwin, we beg your pardon, forgive us. And so next, His Excellency, the President of the Republic, will join us, President John Dramani Mahama. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we welcome and invite him to the podium? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, senior government officials, ministers of state, chairman of NDPC and your team, members of the diplomatic corps, development partners, private sector players, members of civil society, traditional and religious leaders, our youth, women, and persons with disability, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A few weeks ago, the NDPC came to walk me through some of the highlights of the VNR and also officially invited me to be at this presentation. And I accepted, so here I am. When Nimwe, I've glanced through the report, I looked through the same findings, and you might be carried away by the averages, but if you disaggregate, you find that we're far behind in some geographical aspects of it. So for instance, if you take maternal mortality, and we're at 300 approximately, you go to some parts of the northern sector, and it's almost 400. And we need to disaggregate and see how we can reduce the numbers in the areas where we're not making much progress. I remember we opened the Dodowa Hospital, and for 4 years in a row, they had 0 maternal deaths. And, oh, there's somebody, is that one of the doctors from Dodowa? Oh, okay. And they got good accolades from West Africa. I think they were the best performing in the whole of West Africa in terms of 0 maternal deaths. And so we must make every single facility aim for 0 maternal mortality. It's a statistic until it is your sister or your wife or your relative. And so we say 300. Who are the 300 of the 100,000? These are real life. These are mothers. These are sisters and others. And I remember when Nimoy mentioned 300. I remember that in 2016, we were at 314. So I asked him, I said, what's this magic 300 number we cannot break? It is my hope that the next time we compile our VNR, we will break the 300 barrier and go. And so I think we must put in more work. And as he said, it's a complex, array of things that are responsible. I mean, an ambulance driver enjoying himself at Meet Me There on the beach when a woman is waiting to be transported in his ambulance. I mean, in some places, it's bad roads. Just getting the woman from the CHIPS compound to the district referral hospital where she can have a safe CS is sometimes what leads to the mother's death. And I think that we must see how we address all these linkages so that we can break the 300 barrier and move as swiftly as possible towards zero maternal deaths. So it is with great honor and a deep sense of purpose that I address you this afternoon at the launch of Ghana's 2025 Voluntary National Review of the UN Sustainable Goals, SDGs. This moment is not simply the unveiling of a report, it's a national mirror, an occasion for collective reflection, introspection, and reaffirming our shared commitments to building a fairer, greener, and more prosperous nation. This marks Ghana's third voluntary national review, following those of 2019 and 2022. And it comes at a critical juncture where we're just 5 years away from the 2030 deadline for achieving the SDGs. The clock is ticking. We have no luxury of complacency. We either finish this race with courage and conviction or fall short on the promise we owe ourselves and future generations. This report was led by the National Development Planning Commission, NDPC, in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance, the Ghana Statistical Service, the National Africa Peer Review Mechanism. Importantly, it drew insights from voluntary local reviews by 4 metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, and these were the Atebubu Amantin Assembly, the Gas South Assembly, Kole Klote, and Takwa Nswayim. It represents a genuinely inclusive ground-up process. Women, people with disability, children, older persons, and residents of hard-to-reach communities were not left behind. Their voices are woven into the fabric of this voluntary review. Ghana's path towards sustainable development has been marked by resilience, from the economic shocks of the COVID-19 pandemic to global volatilities. Our institution and people have endured and adapted from 0.5% in 2020 to 5.7% in 2024, driven mostly by industry and services. Inflation has fallen in recent times, and the cedi has appreciated significantly in the first half of 2025. This more stable macroeconomic environment offers us hope, but we must also confront hard truths. Multi-dimensional poverty affects over 41% of our people, with the northern and rural regions most impacted. Nearly 1.9 million of our young people are not in education, employment, or training. These are not just statistics, they are lived realities. Mothers walking miles for water, children skipping a meal because the family cannot afford, young people losing faith in the promise of a better tomorrow. Ghana's maternal mortality rate, over 300 deaths per 100,000 live births, is more than 4 times the SDG target. In some rural areas and other communities, it is even higher. This is a silent emergency, and we must improve antenatal care. We must expand the number of CHIPS compounds, increase the number of skilled birth attendants, and make maternal health services affordable and accessible. Recently, one of the ministers announced that we're going to build a certain number of CHIPS compounds, and somebody was challenging how we're going to do it. All we've done is to release 80% of the common fund to the districts. And in the guidelines we've given them, we've asked them to build 1 CHIPS compound every year. And so it means every assembly will build at least 4 CHIPS compounds. 4 CHIPS compounds times 261 will give you the number that we potentially can build. But then we must equip them with what is necessary, scans, so that the health attendants can see if there's going to be a complicated birth and be able to move the mother quickly to the referral centers. Accommodation, we've asked that accommodation should be built along with the CHIPS compound so that the health attendants can stay at the CHIPS compound and attend to any mother or any person who comes at any time of the day or night. In addition, it's said that over 50% of pregnant women in Ghana suffer from some form of anemia. And so this is a direct reflection of poor nutrition, inequality, and inadequate health education. Addressing this is not a choice, it is a necessity for our mother and children's future. We're also alarmed by the rising HIV rates, especially amongst our young people. This points to a failure in communications, stigma, and limited access to sexual health education. We need a bold youth-led national conversation on prevention supported by our schools, by our health workers, our parents, and the media. Prevention is essential, but empowerment is the key. It is unacceptable that in 2025, open defecation persists in parts of Ghana. This is not just a public health issue, it is a matter of dignity and equity. Our sanitation crisis is not caused by lack of knowledge, but by gaps in investment, enforcement, and community engagement. We must move decisively to eradicate this scourge. And when you talk of enforcement, all the district assemblies have in their bylaws that you can't get a building permit unless you provide sanitation and toilet facilities in the building. So how come people have to go out to, what do they call it, free range, you know? And the most disturbing thing is some people say they enjoy free range better because you get some air conditioning at your rear end, you know. And so the district assemblies must enforce their bylaws. Nobody should be able to build without sanitation facilities in the building. Access to potable water also remains uneven. Some communities still rely on unsafe water sources, and others endure weeks of dry taps. And this is not only a rural phenomenon. Even increasingly in urban centers, we're undertaking water rationing. Your taps are closed for certain days in the week, or they're open twice in the week, and so you have to store enough water to tide you through the period that you don't have water. And if you run out of water and you order a tanker, and like Nimwe, you go and look in and you see frogs jumping in the water, I don't think you'll be very amused at that. And so it's not only a rural phenomenon, it's also an urban phenomenon. We need to address regional imbalances, improve infrastructure, and prioritize maintenance and equity in water delivery. Water is said to be life, and every Ghanaian has a right to quality drinking water. My government has launched the Big Push initiative to accelerate progress, a bold investment drive to mobilize over $10 billion over a five-year period for strategic infrastructure development. This investment will go into roads, bridges, hospitals, schools, railways, energy, ICT, and supply of quality drinking water. But let me be clear, infrastructure must mean jobs for Ghanaians. Too often, foreign labor dominates high-skilled construction roles while our youth remain unemployed. That must change. Every project under the Big Push must build Ghanaian capacity and livelihoods. We're also investing in the economic transformation through accelerated industrialization, anchored by our Feed Ghana program and our 24-hour economy program. This is to improve domestic productivity and expand exports and create decent jobs. And so what are the priorities for catalytic impact in achieving the SDGs? And as you were told by earlier speakers, our approach now is to focus on five one, decent work, two, busy, and five, effective and strengthened institutions. These are not isolated targets. When a girl in Savannah gains access to clean water, school, and nutritious meals, she helps advance the 5 SDGs simultaneously. This intelligent prioritization reflects our moonshots and our medium-term national development policy framework. We're implementing an integrated national financing framework to allow space and confronting illicit financial flows that deprive us of vital resources. The SDGs are not a job of government alone, and so I call on the private sector to go beyond just profit and embed sustainability in investments that you make in your labor practices and innovation strategies. Civil society organizations, I urge you to keep up the good work you're doing. Your activism ensures accountability and drives change. We ask our development partners for greater alignment with our national priorities and more substantial support for local institutions. Let us work together not in silos or through parallel systems, but in mutual respect and with lasting impact. Now, what's the role of our youth, who are our greatest assets? To the young people of Ghana, you're not just recipients of the SDGs, you are their authors and drivers. Whether you are innovating in agri-tech or you are coding new apps, leading climate action, or organizing your communities, you are the heartbeat of this SDG vision. We're investing in your education, your creativity, and your future. We see you, and we believe in you, and we're committed to walking this path with you side by side. This voluntary national review is a mirror. It reflects who we are, where we are, and what lies ahead of us. It reminds us that transformation is possible, but not inevitable. It demands courage, clarity, and commitment. And so, fellow citizens, let's rise to this challenge together. Let us ensure that no Ghanaian is living with disability in war. Let us place people at the center of every plan. Let us place people at the center of every budget. And let us place people at the center of every decision that we make. Because these SDGs are about lives. They are about dignity. And above all, they are about the promise that every Ghanaian, regardless of age, gender, location, or ability, can live a life of hope, security, and fulfillment. And so, may God bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. Mr. Chairman, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular honor and privilege to officially launch the report of the Ghana 2025 Voluntary National Review of the Sustainable Development Goals. I thank you very much.
Another round of applause. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Mr. President will now take leave of us, but Vice, please remain, so we'll take the last presentation and then wrap up. So Mr. President would excuse us now for his other engagement. Mr. President, please, thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Very well. Please, you may kindly take your seat. And I'd like to now invite Mr. Edwin Kweku Ando, Executive Secretary, National Council on Persons with Disability, to come up stage. Yes, please.
Your Excellency, Madam Vice President, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, development partners, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of institutions, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you warm greetings from the National Council on Persons with Disability, and I stand in solidarity with millions of Ghanaians living with different categories of disabilities as we launch this chapter of the Voluntary National Review Report on the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Our pursuit of the SDGs highlights the link between disability and the achievement of inclusive and equitable development. While we endeavor to achieve the goals, we want for Ghana, we also reckon that this voluntary national review report is not just a milestone in our national development journey. It is a reaffirmation of our collective commitment to leave no one behind.
All cables.
Government support and advocacy for gender, children, and social protection issues of persons with disabilities is encouraging, and we commend its commitment to the amendment of Act 715, the Persons with Disability Act 2006. The bill harvests about 90% of the SDGs, and persons with disabilities are looking forward to having it passed. Pivotal to the responsive and inclusive developments shaping Ghana's education is the broad-based input of the complete review of the inclusive education policy, the development of secondary level mathematics curriculum for the blind, the training of Ghana Education Service teachers with visual impairment in information technology, the development of sign language curriculum from kindergarten to senior high school level, the student nutrition through feeding programs in senior high schools, and the allocation of funds to pay tuition fees for tertiary students living with disabilities. The uncapping of the National Health Insurance Scheme is ensuring the affordable health care regardless of socioeconomic status, especially where subscribers can access